Hi guys, so I thought that I would do a little sit down video and talk about some girl stuff. Technically, guys can listen too, I guess, because today's topic is we're going to be talking about Christian guys, okay? Christian. So when I say Christian, I mean the guys who like to say that because they think that it's gonna give them a leg up, but they don't really live, their character, I should say, isn't really like a man of God. So if you're a guy and you're watching this and your character is of, what the Bible describes as a godly man, then don't be offended by this, because then it's not about you. But if you're offended by anything that I say in this video, then maybe you should take a look in the mirror and see why you're offended by it, because a lot of times when people are offended by something, it's oftentimes because there's a grain of truth to it. I'm not saying all the time, but oftentimes. So this is Bella. Excuse me, I'm making a video. Anyway, so this is mainly like a girl chat. I just kind of want it to be like relaxed. You can grab yourself some coffee. I have mine. This was actually, I went the other day to get some work done and I ordered a venti. They made it a grande and I said, excuse me, I ordered a venti. They were so nice. This is the second time it's actually happened to me, where of course they just let me keep the drink. So I have extra coffee. So yeah, whatever it is, like a snack. I just wanted to feel just very casual, like, we're sitting at a coffee shop or we're out to eat and we're just discussing girl stuff. So I want to share my personal experiences with guys who, are Christians, claim to be Christians, or they might have like some type of relationship with God, but there's also red flags that I'm just like, that's not a quality of a godly man that I look for. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I had like my first breakup 2 years ago, I think now. I don't really keep count. And I don't really like saying ex, because I just always feel like when people say ex, it means like ex, like you're out of my life. And I mean, we're not in contact anymore, but I don't have like any ill will towards him or whatever, and he still really means a lot to me. We went through a lot together and all this stuff, but anyways, that's irrelevant to this video. So I've had some experiences of talking to guys since my breakup. I would say maybe one guy I thought I knew I was really into him. Then there was another guy, he was questionable. I really didn't know where he stood. And then another guy that I wasn't into. Okay, I'm not going to name any names, of course, because that's just awkward, because maybe some of the people that watch this would actually know who I'm talking about, and I don't want that. So let's see. Okay, and then there's like other experience with guys, that would DM me on Instagram and or talk to me for a little bit, and they would seem really super nice, and then like they would just ghost me or go MIA, or they would end up asking for inappropriate things. So of course that was a no-go. There's this one guy, and I was actually out of town with my mom and my foster sisters at the time, and he slid into my DMs and we started talking. And I remember thinking, like, first off the bat, like, oh, okay, he's cute. Like, this is the first time that I've clicked on somebody who's DM'd me and he was actually cute. And I was like, okay. And we were talking for a little bit and, like, complimented me on my appearance. And I was like, oh, thank you. And, he kind of kept complimenting me to a point where I did kind of feel a little uncomfortable. But it wasn't like so severe that I was like, no. And I admit now, probably at the time, I tried to overlook it or like give him the benefit of the doubt because he was cute. And I didn't want to judge him right off the bat because like I know that too, sometimes over social media it can be so easy to like misconstrue things. And like I asked our mom and she's like, yeah, just, give him time, like see where it goes. And eventually he ended up saying how, he dates for marriage, and so if that was something that I did too, he really wanted to get to know me more. And I was like, yeah, I date for marriage as well, but I also don't like, appearance and figures and all that isn't the most important thing to me. And of course he was in agreement, so we kept talking. And one night he was at church and he took forever to respond. And he was like, sorry, I was in church. And I was like, oh, that's fine. And I remember thinking in my head, like, okay, I like that. I like that if he's at church, he's not focused on when he's going to get back to me. He's not focused on talking to me while he's in church. Like, he wants to be focused on God. So I thought, okay, that's a really good quality. I like that. And it was late, so I just decided to go to bed because it was like 11 o'clock. So I just decided to wait to respond to him in the morning. So in the morning, I wake up and I was going to say like, oh, no worries, it's all okay. But it told me that his account had been disabled. So I thought, okay, well, that's really weird because how could you be interested in somebody and say like you want to pursue this person for marriage, but then you deactivate your account without getting like my contact information? So I thought that was really weird. I had a weird feeling about it, but again, I didn't want to assume the worst because in my past, I've had a little issue with assuming the worst in people. So this was part of like my new Samantha, like trying to just give people a chance. So meanwhile, when we had been talking, he shared that he had a business. So I found his business. I found it on Instagram and I reached out to him through there. He was like, oh, this is my number. He sent the number. And I was like, okay, why does he sound so robotic? Apparently he had somebody running the account for him. I really, to this day, don't know if that was true because then later on, something came out that just, it didn't add up. Like 1 minute he said someone ran it and then the next he said like he was the only one who ran it. So, flimsy guy. But I didn't know all this at the time, so I had his number at this point. So then we were texting, then we started calling, and we would like call for basically almost every day. We would have some type of conversation on the phone. But more often than times, he would have to get off the phone. He would claim that he was going to call me right back. He never did. That started to get on my nerves because I'm like, the least you can do is like tell me like, hey, I'm actually not going to be able to call you, because I was just sitting waiting for him to call. My mistake. I've learned not to wait on a guy unless he's proven to be like trustworthy and like legit. So anyways, and we kept talking. He told me about like his testimony, how he came to God, but very rarely did he ask me questions. It was always just about him. And a lot of times he'd always ask for pictures, not like inappropriate, but he would just be like, can I get a picture of you? And I was like, why do you keep asking for photos of me? And he's like, well, because I want to see the girl that I'm talking to. You're so beautiful. And I'm like, okay. It's still like, it was still fishy because anytime I tried to FaceTime with him, he always had a reason not to FaceTime. And I'm like, if you're into me, you want to see me, why the heck would you not want to FaceTime with me? One time we FaceTime, but he cut it short. So a lot of our conversations were on the phone. We would have conversations about God, which I really liked. But again, it was always just like when he initiated it, when he wanted to. And if I asked him anything personal, he really didn't want to share personal. So again, he kept asking for photos. I was like, okay, you know what? You're always asking for photos, but how about you send me some photos? So like he sent me some photos of like him and his family and yada yada. And let me tell you, he was very good looking. Like, and I know it was him because we did FaceTime once. So then it happened again where basically there was one night where he opened up about like his history and like things that he had done and been through. And I was like, you know what, like I appreciate you being honest with me and open. I think that's great. But then the next morning, like he stopped talking to me. Like a week later, he comes back and he gives me this sob story about why he stopped talking. He felt embarrassed. He felt like he was going to be judged. And I'm like, well, you have to give me the chance to show you that I'm not that kind of person. So then, of course, he apologized. And then that night again, he opened up furthermore about more things. And then the next day, this time, he was just like, the things that I shared was like inappropriate, and I just think that I need to focus on God right now. And that was his first reasoning from that whole Instagram thing. He said that he felt like God wanted him to get off Instagram. But then he remade his account, took it down again. But he just gave this whole speech about how he just felt like he needed to focus on God. And I was just like, well, that's fine. Like, I'm for that. But we can still be friends. And, you know, if you ever need, like, encouragement. And, you know, I threw out the idea of, like, us reading the Bible together through the Bible app. He ignored it. So then he basically ghosted me. And then one day I put up a story on my Instagram, and he was still following me on Instagram. He still watched everything. He liked my photos, but he did not ever text me back. So then he commented on a story of mine, and I made a joke at him, and then I basically called him out, and I was like, so why have you ignored my texts? And he was like, what text? Trying to act all clueless, which I know he didn't. And he was like, my bad, he made up some lame excuse. So then I just knew at that point, he was just playing games. He was just trying to play that, like, I'm a Christian guy, I love Jesus, you know, I'm honorable, and I want to be open. But, like, you don't do that. Even if you have reasons, you don't do it the way that you do it. You don't tell someone you're into them, and then you just bail without communicating. And so basically I unfollowed him because I'm like, you know what, I'm not playing this game, and I'm gonna be the first person to unfollow you. So I unfollowed him, and then like a couple days later he found out and he unfollowed me. Like, he was just really flaky. There was just things that felt off about him. Then there's this other guy who started talking to me, and he was well known in a circle of people that I know. And I never really knew, like, what his intentions were, because he never, like, flat out said, oh, I'm into you, I want to get to know you, but we talked. He would talk to me more at night, because he said his, like, day schedule was really busy, and then he had ministry in his church. Well, I eventually find out that he had a girlfriend that he never mentioned, he never implied, never indicated, and he would flirt with me. He would, you know, talk about coming to see me. And one night he did, actually. He stopped by on his way from something else he had done with some friends. And that was fishy, because I'm like, if you want to get to know me, then why wouldn't you have just invited me to hang out with you and your friends? And so it was just really weird. But yeah, I found out that he had a girlfriend. And I think that he just likes having a girlfriend, but then somebody else to flirt with on the side. I think he has commitment issues. And then there was this other guy that I didn't like, but he liked me. And it's not that, like, he wasn't a nice guy. It's just, there was a lot of things that he lacked for me personally. Like, I'm a very goal-oriented person, so, like, I'm always on, like, I always have a bunch of goals. I have a lot of interests, and I'm always trying to be productive. And he was kind of, like, on the opposite side of that. Like, I felt like there wasn't really anything that, you know, he had a passion for, and that he, like, worked hard at, or, like, what's the word that I'm looking for? And so I'm just really driven, and I just felt like he wasn't like that. And to me, that doesn't really mesh well, because I want to be with somebody who can maybe lighten me a little bit, but that has goals, and, like, and that's like working towards those goals, I should say, and, like, serious working towards those goals. So, but basically, they're all of these guys. I have learned so many red flags, and a lot of those flags are, you know, first of all, trust your gut. If you're getting a weird feeling, I'm not saying, like, cut the tie right away, but remember that, like, let that red flag be a red flag. And if it continually happens, then you know you have an issue. You know that they have a pattern. The first guy, he had a pattern. He had a pattern of being flaky, a pattern of saying one thing and doing another. That's not a good quality to have. You want consistency. You want his words to back his actions, and his actions to back his words. So, you know, sometimes red flags happen, and they could just be like a momentarily red flag, but then they can be actual red flags where they tell you something about the person. So pay attention to your red flags. you know, if he gives you a weird feeling, if he keeps asking for photos and that makes you feel uncomfortable, like when the first guy didn't talk to me for the first week and he just dropped right back in, the first thing he asked for was a photo. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, that you don't want to ask me how I've been, you don't want to explain what's going on with you. The first thing you want is a photo." And I was like, "Heck no. No, I did not give that sucker anything." Because I'm like, you're not going to treat me like that. I am not just some trophy that you can have on your phone. So, like, ladies, trust your gut. Have somebody that you can go to. Like, I had my mom every step of the way. She helped me. So, and I was accountable to her. So there was nothing that she didn't know of. You know, so like have that accountability and then trust your gut. Something that I could say with the second guy that was a red flag is he was very wishy-washy. I didn't know where he stood. That was a problem. At first I thought maybe because he was taking it slow, but I found out it was because he had a girlfriend. He couldn't give me too much, but he just gave me enough to leave me wondering if he was into me. You need to know the intentions of who you're talking to. If they don't want to set intentions, then more than likely, don't waste your time. Doesn't mean you can't be friends with them, but then you need to draw the line and say, "Hey, you know what? This is my line. If you're into me, then we can reevaluate things." But, you know, and it's not even something that you have to make known to them, but don't play their games. Like, don't let him be in control, because that's a lot of times what they want. Draw your line, set your intentions, get their intentions, and then go from there. Like, especially if you're at an age where you are seriously looking for a spouse, you need to be serious. You need to not be playing games, because it takes time. And I didn't date any of these guys because I never got to a place with the intentions that I saw that they were true to their intentions. And until that happens, I'm not furthering my relationship. I'm not furthering my position of, okay, now we're like just talking and now we're like actually dating. Because I'm not playing games. I don't have time for games. But if a guy is into you, he will make time for you, okay? Don't ever let him make you question. If he has a really busy schedule, but his intention is to pursue you, he will pursue you. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no, well, you know, I have a busy job and then I have to go to my church. Well, what about after you have to do what you do at the church? What about in between? What about on your lunch break? What if, you know, if a guy really, really wants to talk to you, he will make time to talk to you. I promise you. And if he's not doing that, you need to be questioning why. Don't be afraid to not like somebody because they don't share your same values or purpose. It doesn't mean that that person isn't a great individual. You could be two great individuals, but that does not mean that you complement each other, okay? It's like, let's just say, it's like peanut butter and ketchup, okay? They're both great condiments. You love both of them. They go on so many other things, but just because they're great by themselves does not mean that they're great together. So the same thing can be applied to people. You can have a great person, great qualities. You could get along with that person on the surface, but that doesn't mean that in a relationship where your values and your walk with God and your future goals and maybe, let's just say, your character, your personal convictions, if they don't line up or they're not even close to similarity, you're not, on a deeper level, you're not going to complement each other. And that's okay, because there's another great individual that will compliment you. So don't be afraid to say, hey, you know, you're a great person, and I genuinely mean that, but you're not great for me. And it's hard, and it is a very difficult conversation to have. I've had it. But you can't be so worried about hurting that person's feelings that you, like, I don't want to say lower, because it's not a very nice word to use, but like, you put yourself into a relationship that you know really isn't gonna bear forth fruit. You want whatever relationship you're in to bear forth fruit. And it's not to say that you don't know that person could change after you're married, but you're going to have a better chance of a healthy, maturing relationship if you start off on the same foot. You know, if you're growing this way and the other person's growing that way, no. You need to grow together. And honestly, if you are looking for a godly relationship, then if you're both growing towards God, then that's great. But even still, like, you could have ministries that just, you feel called to be a missionary and the person feels called to stay at their home church and minister there. Like, that's not going to work. Doesn't mean that that person wasn't great. It's just not going to work. So relationships are challenging because there's a lot of things you have to pay attention to. But I promise you, if you listen to that little voice in your head, and sometimes it's God, sometimes it's just our intuition, sometimes it's just our experience speaking, then, you know, and don't always listen to your emotions, because your emotions will steer you wrong, then you'll be okay. And if you listen to the people that have been through it before, that have wisdom, you know, you've got it. So I'm sorry if this video is a little bit all over the place. I didn't really have like a script or anything to talk based off of. I just kind of want to share some personal experiences with some guys that claim to be Christians. You know, Christian guys, it's so easy to throw out there, and I know women do it too, but to really know if a guy is a man of God, go back to the Word of God, okay? That's what you base him off of. Not what he says to you, but what he does when no one's watching, when you're watching, when only God is watching, when he's at church, how he treats his family, how he treats his coworker, how he treats the stranger on the street. You know, there's so many things, and, you know, if you guys want me to maybe make a video discussing, like, things to look for in a godly guy, then I'd be more than happy. I'm not in a relationship, but I am certainly looking for one. I shouldn't say, like, I'm looking. I'm not like, oh, where are you? But, like, I'm open. I am patiently waiting on the Lord. And so, you know, if that's something you guys would want, I'd be more than happy to sit down and chat about that. But I hope this video made sense. Yeah, I hope this, like, encourages you and relates to you on a level, so we get each other a little bit more. But yeah, I will see you in my next video, guys. God bless, and remember to be you. Bye.